Chosen one, pause for a moment. Take a breath, not the shallow breath of routine, but a deliberate inhale that reminds your body and spirit that you are here, right now, in a divine appointment. What you're hearing is not random. What you're about to receive is not coincidence. This message is not drifting past you by accident. It is a spiritual invitation, one that your soul has been quietly waiting for without fully knowing how to ask for it. You were led here on purpose, not by the algorithm, not by timing, not by chance, but by divine orchestration that placed this word in front of you at the exact moment your spirit was ready to receive it. You may not realize it, but you did not find this message. Your spirit was guided to it. Heaven has a way of aligning what the mind overlooks. When the soul cries out silently, God answers loudly. And this right here is one of his answers. Every moment of confusion, every night you questioned your worth, every time you felt unseen or misunderstood, God heard you, and now he's responding. Deep inside, you have always sensed that you were different, even long before you had words for it, even when you were young, even when life had not yet shown you its sharp edges. There has always been a quiet ache living inside your chest, a loneliness you couldn't quite explain, and a knowing that refused to be silenced. It didn't matter how hard you tried to fit in. It didn't matter how much you softened your edges, dimmed your light, or blended into crowds. Something in you always stood out. Something in you never fully belonged. And though people tried to convince you that it was insecurity or overthinking, heaven knew the truth all along. Your difference was never a flaw. It was an indication of calling. That persistent ache you carried, it wasn't emptiness, it was spiritual recognition, that loneliness that followed you. It wasn't punishment, it was separation, and that inner knowing that has chased you your whole life. It was your calling, whispering your name. Your soul has always been aware of what your mind struggled to understand, the divine fingerprint on your life. This is why Scripture speaks so boldly in Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Read that again. Let it settle. Before you were even a thought on this earth, you were known. Not just acknowledged, known. Intentionally, intricately, purposefully known. Before you ever took your first breath, God set you apart. Not after your achievements, not after your mistakes, not after you proved anything. He set you apart before you even existed in physical form. That means your calling is older than your insecurities. Your purpose is older than your pain, and your identity is older than your experiences. You have been marked since the beginning, and because of that divine marking, your life has never felt normal. Your heart has always operated differently. Your spirit has always been sensitive, not fragile, but perceptive, not weak, but tuned to a higher frequency. Society calls it overly emotional, too intense, or dramatic, but heaven calls it what it truly is: discernment, spiritual awareness, prophetic sensitivity, the ability to feel what others ignore, to sense what others deny, and to detect what others cannot see. Your sensitivity is not weakness, it is divine design. And whether you realized it or not, it has been guiding you, protecting you, and shaping you your entire life. But every chosen one reaches a point when the calling becomes too loud to dismiss, a point where the inner questions become impossible to silence, a point where your spirit starts demanding answers your environment can't give you. And maybe you're there right now. Maybe that's why your soul has pulled you into this moment. You've asked questions no one around you seemed to understand. Why do crowds drain me so quickly? Why does being around certain people feel heavy? Why does noise overwhelm me? Why do I need so much time alone? Why do I feel things I can't explain? These questions aren't random. They're the doorway to clarity, the beginning of true spiritual understanding, the opening of a journey where the divine truth about your identity begins to unfold. You didn't come here seeking entertainment. Your soul came seeking revelation. You didn't click on this because you were bored. Your spirit clicked because it recognized truth before your mind did. And what you're feeling right now, this pull, this resonance, this quiet swelling in your chest, is confirmation. You are different because you were designed to be different. You feel deeply because you were created to discern deeply. You stand apart because you were never meant to blend in. And the reason you've struggled to understand yourself is because the world has never been able to give language to what God placed inside you. But today, that changes. This is the moment your spirit begins to understand itself. This is the moment clarity begins to rise. This is the moment your truth is finally exposed. Chosen one, welcome. Your journey begins now. And this is where the journey begins, when you finally understand that what you call being overwhelmed, God calls being set apart. The truth is simple but deeply spiritual. Your energy is not ordinary. Your inner atmosphere, your sensitivity, your intuition, all of it is sacred. And because it is sacred, it reacts to environments that are not aligned with who you truly are. And what you thought was anxiety was never fear. It was discernment waking up inside you. Crowds don't drain you because you're weak. They drain you because your spirit is tuned differently. When you step into a room, you are not just seeing people. You are feeling atmospheres. You are sensing intentions. You are picking up frequencies and emotional undercurrents others are completely blind to. This is why noise feels like chaos, not sound. This is why certain people feel heavy before they even speak. This is why your body tenses when you walk into places that don't match your spirit. You were born with a built-in spiritual alert system, and it was never meant to malfunction. It was created to protect you. Most people navigate life by sight. Chosen ones navigate life by discernment. What someone else calls overthinking is your spirit reading the room. What someone else calls too sensitive is your spirit detecting what their flesh cannot perceive. What someone else calls withdrawn is your soul saying, something here is off. You feel deeply because you were created to hear deeply. And this supernatural sensitivity was not a flaw, it was divine design. God could have created you to blend in, to tolerate anything, to numb out like the world does. But He didn't. He made you spiritually porous, able to absorb signals, shifts, and spiritual movements that others ignore. He made you spiritually sharp, able to detect deception long before it shows itself. He made you spiritually tuned, able to hear God's voice, even in the whispers. This calling requires clarity. It requires purity of spirit. It requires environments that do not drown out your spiritual hearing. That is why you can't do what others do, why you can't live how others live, why you can't pretend you don't feel what you feel. Your spiritual sensitivity is evidence that you were appointed for a higher path, a narrower road, and a divine assignment that requires vigilance. And this is the real reason isolation happens not as punishment, but as divine protection. When you can't handle certain places anymore, when conversations drain you, when your circle shrinks without you trying, when your spirit withdraws from certain people despite loving them, you think something is wrong, but actually something is being preserved. God removes you from noise so you can hear Him more clearly. He separates you from chaos so He can strengthen your foundations. He leads you into solitude, not to break you, but to sharpen you. Isolation is the spiritual workshop of chosen ones. It is where your discernment grows teeth. It is where your intuition becomes accurate. It is where your identity becomes unshakable, and the people who once had access to you suddenly find themselves outside the gates, not because you rejected them, but because your spirit evolved beyond the level of their influence. Every time you were pulled away, every time you were removed from certain groups, every time you were distanced from what looked comfortable, it was God saying, your energy is too sacred for this. You are not being hidden because you are unworthy. You are being hidden because you are holy, because you are chosen, because you carry something inside you that must be protected before it can be released. And the moment you embrace this truth, Everything about your past emotional experiences suddenly makes sense. You were never meant to blend in. You were designed to stand apart. And the more you grow into your identity, the more you realize that being chosen was never about superiority. It was always about responsibility. This is where many misunderstand the journey. People romanticize the idea of being called, but they don't see the weight that comes with it. Being chosen is not a status, it is a summons, a spiritual assignment, a divine appointment that demands growth, discipline, and surrender. And this calling pulls you onto a path that few are willing to walk, the narrow road Jesus spoke of in Matthew 7:14. Most people choose comfort. Most people choose the crowd. Most people choose the familiar road that requires little courage and zero transformation. But you were pulled toward the road that stretches you, the road that awakens you, the road that makes you face yourself, your purpose, and your spirit with brutal honesty. The narrow road is lonely, not because you did something wrong, but because everyone cannot walk where you are going. Your destiny is not built on convenience, it is built through refining, and the fact that you feel different is not evidence of rejection, it is evidence of selection. Chosen ones are set apart long before they are set above. You are among the few, the sensitive, the aware, the ones who were awakened while others slept. And with this awakening comes the spiritual responsibility of carrying truth in a world comfortable with illusions. Chosen ones do not get the luxury of pretending. You cannot swallow lies just to keep peace. You cannot follow crowds just to fit in. Your spirit demands authenticity. When something is wrong, you feel it before it manifests. When deception is near, you sense it before others notice. When spiritual warfare rises, you detect it before anyone else realizes a storm is coming. You feel the battle before it begins, because you were designed to stand on the front lines of the unseen. Your intuition is not random, it is strategic. Your convictions are not personality traits, they are spiritual weapons. Your emotional depth is not instability, it is sensitivity to the supernatural terrain around you. Others react to life, chosen ones perceive life. And this perception often puts you at odds with the environment around you, because you see truth others are trained to ignore. And like Joseph, Deborah, and John the Baptist, your journey carries the pattern of those who were chosen to stand apart. Joseph was misunderstood by his own brothers. Deborah carried wisdom in a time where few could hear God. John the Baptist lived outside the system, preparing the way before anyone recognized the purpose of his voice. These were not ordinary people. They were not crowd pleasers. They were not called to blend in. They were chosen, and chosen people often endure isolation, betrayal, separation, or seasons of wilderness before they are revealed. You too have walked through your own versions of these wilderness seasons. Times when no one understood your heart. Times when your dreams felt bigger than your reality. Times when you felt unseen, unheard, or out of place. Times when God seemed silent, but your spirit was being shaped. This loneliness was not abandonment, it was preparation. Leaders are not built in crowds, they are built in caves. Prophets are not trained in comfort, they are trained in solitude. Purpose is not formed in noise, it is formed in stillness. Your loneliness was not a wound, it was a classroom. God separated you so you could hear him more clearly. He emptied your crowd so he could fill you with purpose. He stripped away the unnecessary so he could strengthen the essential. And as your spirit matures, you begin to see the pattern. Being chosen is both a burden and a beauty. The burden of carrying what others cannot see, and the beauty of walking in a destiny others cannot touch. And one of the greatest reasons you feel different around people is because your spiritual sensitivity picks up what others are trying hard to conceal. Most people think discernment is just intuition or mood awareness. But chosen ones understand that it is something far deeper. It is a spiritual antenna, a divine radar. You don't just walk into a room, you scan it, spiritually, emotionally, and atmospherically, without even trying. You feel the unspoken tension. You sense the hidden motives. You notice the shift in someone's tone, posture, or energy long before the conversation reveals it. This sensitivity is not a flaw, it is spiritual intelligence. Your spirit is alert because it was designed to detect movement in the unseen realm, and because you carry this heightened awareness, you can feel environments shift instantly, long before anyone else realizes change has occurred. Most people navigate environments with their eyes. You navigate with your spirit. When a room is unsettled, you feel it ripple through your chest. When a person carries heaviness, you sense it as if a weight enters the space. When someone's intentions are off, you feel an internal tightening, a subtle warning from the Holy Spirit. Discernment does not just tell you what is happening, it alerts you to the spiritual resistance beneath the surface. You can feel when something is spiritual, even when it disguises itself as emotional. You can sense when someone's smile is sincere, and when it is a mask. Your sensitivity is not emotional instability. It is spiritual intelligence operating at full power. And because your perception is rooted in truth, your presence exposes what others try to hide. This is why some people are instantly drawn to you. Your presence feels like clarity. Your authenticity feels like relief. Your energy feels like home to those who walk in truth. But this is also why others react negatively to you. Light exposes darkness, just as John 1:5 declares. And darkness is uncomfortable around someone who carries illumination. Some people won't like you and won't know why. Some will distance themselves because something in them feels exposed. Some will feel intimidated without you ever speaking a word. It is not your tone, it is not your personality, it is not your attitude, it is your light. You do not even have to confront people, your existence confronts them. The purity in your spirit disrupts their shadows. The truth in your presence tests their motives. The clarity in your energy reveals their confusion. This is why certain people become defensive around you. This is why others gossip, compete, or react with insecurity. They are not reacting to you, they are reacting to what manifests when you show up. And this is the deeper purpose behind the misunderstanding you often face. People are responding to the light within you, not the personality outside you. Many chosen ones spend years wondering why they are too much for some and not enough for others, why certain people seem irritated by their presence, why friendships shift suddenly, why relationships crumble without explanation. But the truth is this: you unsettle what they were trying to keep hidden. Light does not negotiate with darkness, it exposes it, and exposure creates discomfort. This discomfort often shows up as rejection, distance, coldness, or misunderstanding. It feels personal, but it is spiritual. People are not rejecting you, they are protecting the parts of themselves they are not ready to face. And here's the beautiful revelation: what felt like rejection was actually protection. God removed people whose hidden motives would have harmed you. He allowed the exit of those who could not handle your calling. He permitted distance from those who were intimidated by your growth. Rejection was not a wound, it was a warning. It was God shielding you from connections that could not survive where you're going. You shine too brightly to stay in places where shadows feel comfortable. You carry too much truth to coexist with hidden agendas. You walk with too much clarity to remain in rooms built on confusion. Your light is both a weapon and a filter. It attracts what is aligned, and it repels what is not. One of the greatest mysteries of being chosen is this: God often calls you into isolation, not to punish you, but to preserve you. People assume loneliness means something is wrong, but for chosen ones, solitude is spiritual strategy. When God pulls you away from certain people, places, or patterns, it is not rejection, it is divine recalibration. It is heaven stepping in to protect your spiritual frequency from being diluted by environments that cannot hold the weight of your calling. You begin to notice that the more you grow spiritually, the smaller your circle becomes, not because you are unlovable, but because your spirit outgrows spaces your flesh used to tolerate. The truth is simple yet profound: Oil and water cannot mix, and the anointing on your life cannot blend with every atmosphere. When God elevates you, He isolates you, so your spirit is not contaminated, distracted, or drained by what cannot follow you into your next level. And this call to separation follows a biblical pattern that has marked every chosen vessel before you. Moses was raised in Pharaoh's palace but shaped in the wilderness. David was anointed in front of his family but refined in the caves of Adullam. Elijah withdrew to hear the whisper of God above the noise of Jezebel's threats. Joseph's preparation came through isolation in prisons and pits, and even Jesus, the Son of God himself, repeatedly withdrew from crowds to pray, to reset, to align, and to strengthen. You are not the first to walk this lonely road, and you will not be the last. Isolation has always been the forge where God shapes those He calls. Not everyone can understand the weight you carry. Not everyone can walk at your pace. Not everyone can handle the spiritual intensity that surrounds you. So God separates you, not as exile, but as preparation. Think of it this way: diamonds do not form in crowds. Warriors are not trained in public. Prophets are not shaped in comfort. And callings are not birthed in noise. And this is why heaven continually directs you into what the Bible calls the secret place, the quiet chamber where divine instruction is released. Matthew 6:6 reminds you that the deepest revelations come not from public display, but from private communion. Go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. This is where heaven speaks clearly. This is where your spirit sharpens. This is where your discernment heightens. This is where you learn to distinguish God's voice from the world's noise. The secret place is not a physical room. It is a spiritual posture. It is the space where your soul becomes still enough to hear what crowds drown out. It is where God detoxes your spirit from old patterns, old wounds, old connections, and old identities. And while isolation feels uncomfortable, it is the holy ground where your transformation accelerates. It is where God reveals your next assignment. It is where He heals what you didn't know was broken. It is where He strengthens what life tried to weaken. It is where He downloads strategies that cannot be received in chaotic environments. In isolation, you don't lose people, you gain clarity. You don't lose opportunities, you gain alignment. You don't lose social connection, you gain spiritual direction. And this is why chosen ones do not fear loneliness. You've learned that when God removes you from certain circles, He is not diminishing your life, He is upgrading it. He is protecting the purity of your spirit. He is shielding your sensitivity. He is preparing you for influence that requires a grounded soul and a quiet mind. Isolation is not the end of your story. It is the environment where the next chapter is written. It is the training ground of the called, the sanctuary of the anointed, and the birthplace of your divine assignment. You are not alone. You are being refined. One of the greatest signs that you are chosen is the way your heart feels what others cannot express. While most people move through life numb, distracted, or disconnected, you can sense the emotional atmosphere the moment you enter a room. Some call it empathy. Some call it intuition. But spiritually, it is a divine gift, a heavenly tuning that allows your spirit to pick up what others hide, suppress, or ignore. You feel sorrow that was never spoken. You sense tension before words are exchanged. You discern hidden darkness even when faces display smiles. And this ability is not weakness. It is spiritual sight. It means your heart is connected to realms beyond human logic. And the reason you feel so deeply is because your heart is wired to sense what others miss. A heart that feels beyond words. God designed you to read beneath the surface, to detect emotional shifts, to recognize spiritual dissonance, and to understand the unspoken cries of those around you. Your sensitivity is not emotionalism, it is discernment. It means you can feel spiritual conflict before it manifests physically. It means you can sense when someone's spirit is unsettled, even when their mouth says, "I'm fine." It means God crafted you with the ability to perceive both burdens and breakthroughs in ways the average person cannot. This is why people confide in you without knowing why strangers feel safe around you, why broken souls gravitate toward your presence. It is because your light reveals what they have been carrying, and your spirit offers the comfort their own doesn't know how to find. And this leads to another truth. Your light naturally attracts broken hearts, often without you realizing it. People feel the peace in you because they lack it in themselves. They feel the clarity in you because they live in confusion. They feel the spiritual grounding in you because they are drifting. So without meaning to, they pour their pain into you. They release their sadness, trauma, and fear in your presence, as if your spirit is the place where their chaos finally feels safe enough to speak. And while this is a gift, it also becomes a burden when left unguarded, without boundaries. You don't just listen to people's struggles, you absorb them. You don't just understand their pain, you carry it. You don't just support them, you become their emotional shelter. This is why you often feel exhausted after social interactions, even with people you care about. This is why certain conversations leave you drained, even when nothing bad happened. This is why you sometimes feel emotions you can't explain because they were never yours. And this is precisely why God continually calls you back into solitude, not to isolate you, but to cleanse you. When your spirit becomes overloaded with the emotional residue of others, God pulls you away so your soul can breathe again. Solitude becomes the spiritual detox. Stillness becomes the reset button for your heart. Silence becomes the environment where God untangles what you absorbed. It's in solitude that your clarity returns. It's in solitude that God clears what people placed on you. It's in solitude that your discernment sharpens again. And it's in solitude that you remember which feelings were yours and which ones were simply passing through you. Spirit-filled sensitivity requires spiritual maintenance, just as prophets withdrew to recover, as Jesus withdrew to pray, as David withdrew to weep and be restored. You too must withdraw to reset your heart. Your empathy is a gift. Your sensitivity is an assignment. Your heart is a vessel heaven uses to heal others, but it must be cleansed, protected, and renewed. You feel deeply because you are called deeply, and God will never let sensitivity become your downfall. Instead, He uses solitude to restore the strength of your spirit, so you can carry what He entrusts to you without being crushed by what people unload on you. Your sensitivity is not a burden, it is a mark of divine calling, and heaven guards what it gave you. Your compassion is holy, but even holiness requires protection. You were designed with a tender spirit, a sensing heart, an ability to feel what others miss, but that purity is not meant to be poured into every situation, every person, or every cry for attention. Compassion is powerful, but without boundaries, even power can become drained, diluted, or misdirected. And this leads us to a truth you must embrace deeply. Not every cry for help is your assignment. Some voices call you because they see your light, not because they are ready to change. Some people seek your energy, not your wisdom. Some approach with open hands, but closed hearts. You must learn to discern the difference, because your destiny cannot be detoured by emotional emergencies that God never told you to fix. Love must be wise, giving must be guided, service must be spirit-led. As you step into the next layer of your calling, understand another truth. Not every presence is spiritually safe. People carry atmospheres. Some carry peace, others carry confusion. Some carry clarity, others carry chaos. You cannot allow yourself to be spiritually entangled with those who drain your essence or contaminate your focus. This is not judgment, it is stewardship. Your spiritual health determines the strength of your mission. Protect it with discernment. To stand undefeated in this world, you must learn to guard your heart, because everything God placed in you flows from this sacred center. Proverbs 4:23 is not a suggestion, it is a command. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Your creativity flows from it. Your intuition flows from it. Your purpose flows from it. Your spiritual stamina flows from it. If the heart is overburdened, the spirit becomes scattered. If the heart is unguarded, the soul becomes confused. Boundaries are not barriers. Boundaries are gates, and gates are meant to control what comes in and what goes out. Even Jesus himself showed you the template. He withdrew to rest and recalibrate. If the Son of God stepped away from crowds, conversations, and demands, why do you feel guilty doing the same? Jesus understood that revelation requires rest, strength requires silence, power requires separation. Some of your next breakthroughs will not come from doing more, but from stepping back long enough to receive more. Your alone time is your anointing chamber. Your quiet space is your renewal zone. Your peace is your spiritual oxygen. And from this sacred place of rest comes the next truth. Clarity must become your compass, not emotions, not pressure, not guilt. Clarity. Because when you are spiritually overwhelmed, your light dims. When your energy is scattered, your vision blurs. And when you allow too many voices into your life, you lose the ability to hear God's voice within you. Clarity is not a luxury, it is a spiritual necessity. It helps you say yes without fear and no without guilt. It helps you stay aligned instead of overstretched. You cannot shine with brilliance when you are carrying burdens that aren't yours. You cannot rise while wearing weights that others placed on your shoulders. The truth is simple but profound. Your boundaries are not walls that keep people out. Your boundaries are the shield that keeps your destiny intact. Honor your limits. Honor your energy. Honor your mission. Honor your spiritual design. You are chosen not to be everything for everyone, but to be exactly what God shaped you to be. Protect that calling with intention, and your light will not only shine, it will shine without burning out. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when God begins to rearrange your environment, not to isolate you, but to separate you for clarity. Separation is not punishment, it is preparation. When God pulls you away from certain people, environments, or distractions, it is because something in your spirit is being sharpened. The purpose of separation is to refine your discernment so you can hear what you could not hear in the noise, see what you could not see in the crowd, and recognize what you once overlooked in the chaos. And in this holy silence, God reveals divine strategy. You cannot receive battlefield instructions while you're standing in the marketplace of distractions. You cannot perceive spiritual downloads when you're drowning in constant chatter. Silence is where God whispers the next move. It is where strategy descends into your spirit. It is where clarity becomes your compass, instead of confusion becoming your burden. In separation, God pours into you the kind of wisdom that doesn't come from books, mentors, or experiences. It comes from Him alone. This is why noise disrupts your calling more than you realize. Spiritual noise is not just sound, it is any frequency that interrupts your alignment with God. It is the pressure that clouds your intuition, the urgency that confuses your mission, the voices that contradict what God whispered to you in private. Noise makes spiritual truth harder to hear, and this weakens your direction. Noise makes you doubt what you already knew. Noise tries to convince you that you need people, approval, or validation that God never assigned to your path, because the truth is simple and sobering. Spiritual misalignment drains your strength. When you're around people who do not walk with God, your spirit becomes heavy. When you attach to conversations that are beneath your calling, your discernment becomes dull. When you stay in environments that no longer match your frequency, your energy sinks and your focus blurs. Misalignment doesn't just confuse you, it weakens you. And a weakened warrior cannot carry out a divine mission. This is why your mission demands precision, not confusion. You were not chosen to move randomly. You were chosen to move strategically. Not every opportunity is from God. Not every open door is yours to walk through. Not every direction is meant for your feet. Your calling requires a level of accuracy that only clarity can produce. Precision is the language of destiny. Confusion is the language of delay. And when you study Scripture, you see that God's timing has always included strategic moments of separation, silence, and clarity. Take Gideon, for example. Before he could win the battle, God reduced his army from thousands to a mere 300. Why? Because God wanted Gideon to understand that victory is never about numbers, it is about obedience. Separation sharpened Gideon's faith. Fewer voices meant fewer doubts. A smaller circle meant greater clarity. Then consider Paul. Before he became the apostle who shook nations, he spent years in obscurity, hidden, unseen, removed from public influence. That hidden season wasn't wasted time, it was incubation time. Separation built his revelation, silence deepened his understanding, isolation prepared him for impact. And then there's Joseph. His life teaches the opposite pattern. Years of being unseen, forgotten, and misunderstood, until suddenly God elevated him. One moment he was in prison, the next moment he was standing before Pharaoh. What does this show you? That God often works in long, quiet seasons, followed by rapid, divine acceleration. Each of these stories is a mirror for your journey. Each one shows you that clarity comes before elevation, separation comes before assignment, and silence comes before strategy. So if God has been pulling you away from certain people, places, or patterns, if you've been feeling the urge to be alone, quiet, or still, if the noise around you has become unbearable, it's not abandonment, it's alignment. It's not loneliness, it's preparation. It's not loss, it's strategy. You are being positioned for a season where your decisions must be sharp, your spirit must be clear, and your steps must be precise. Let the separation do its work. Let the silence speak. Let the strategy form. Because when God finishes preparing you, the world will not recognize the version of you that steps forward next. There is a rhythm to your destiny that does not follow human clocks, earthly calendars, or societal expectations. When God writes the script of your life, He does not consult your age, your deadlines, or the timeline you thought you needed to meet. Instead, He orchestrates every season according to divine timing, not human schedules. This is why the journey of the chosen often looks delayed, slow, or interrupted from the outside. But heaven sees something very different. Heaven sees alignment, not delay. It begins with understanding that pruning is for purpose, not punishment. When God removes people from your life, it is never random, it is never accidental. It is never without reason. He cuts away what cannot grow with you, because elevation requires separation. Some people were meant for your past, not your future. Some relationships were only assignments for a season, not a lifetime. Some connections were stepping stones, not foundations. God removes what would suffocate your next level because your calling demands room to breathe, room to expand, room to rise. And in this sacred pruning, God is whispering to your spirit, you are not behind, you are being refined. This is the truth. Every chosen one must anchor themselves in. You are not late, you are not failing, you are not overlooked, you are being prepared. Purpose requires precision, and precision requires preparation. Every delay you've experienced has been developmental. Every closed door has been protective. Every season of stagnation has actually been spiritual construction. Hiddenness, though frustrating, is heaven's protection over you. God hides what He values. He conceals what is precious. Diamonds form in darkness. Warriors train in private. Prophets grow in stillness. God does not place His chosen ones on display before they are ready, because premature exposure can destroy what was meant to flourish. Hidden seasons are where God builds your strength without the weight of public pressure. They are where He shapes your character without the noise of outside influence. They are where He deepens your wisdom without the distortion of opinions and expectations. This is why you must learn to walk God's timeline, not the timeline others impose on you. Isaiah 55:8 reminds us, His ways are higher, meaning deeper, wiser, broader, beyond your understanding. Higher meaning He sees the entire picture while you only see the moment. Higher meaning nothing is ever random, wasted, or accidental in the hands of God. What feels slow to you is the speed of divine perfection. What feels delayed to you is on time in the kingdom. What feels like detours are actually redirections toward the exact place you're meant to be. Walking God's timeline requires surrender, surrendering your deadlines, your expectations, your assumptions, and your desire to control the pace. Chosen ones move differently because their steps are ordered differently. You are not governed by human urgency. You are governed by divine purpose. Let God set the clock. Let God turn the pages. Let God determine the season. And understand this deeply. Not everyone is meant to come with you. Some people cannot handle where God is taking you next. Some would slow you down. Some would distort your clarity. Some would dilute your anointing. Some would sabotage your elevation without meaning to. This is why God does not invite everyone into your next chapter. He filters your circle according to your calling. He protects your future by limiting your access. He positions you for impact by surrounding you with only those who strengthen your assignment. So do not mourn what God removes. Do not fear who leaves. Do not panic when timelines shift and plans crumble. You are not losing. You are aligning. You are not being denied. You are being prepared. You are not late. You are perfectly synchronized with heaven. Every pruning, every delay, every quiet season, every unanswered prayer has been guiding you toward a greater unveiling. Trust the timing. Trust the process. Trust the God who sees what you cannot. You are not behind. You are being refined for a destiny that requires perfect timing. His timing. Walking as a chosen one is not simply about carrying a title. It's about carrying a posture. It's about moving through life with spiritual precision, divine awareness, and intentional obedience. You cannot walk like everyone else because you are not like everyone else. The calling on your life demands alignment, discipline, and clarity, and it begins with something foundational: daily alignment, the quiet spiritual positioning that sets the direction for your entire day. This is why you must learn to guard your mornings with the seriousness of someone who understands their spiritual assignment. The first moments of the day shape the entire tone of your spirit. Before the world asks for your attention, before demands pull at your energy, before voices influence your thoughts, God must be the first voice you hear. This is not just a routine, it is your spiritual oxygen. Morning alignment calibrates your spirit, sharpens your discernment, and anchors your identity before anything else attempts to define you. And as you spend those early moments with God, don't come only asking for strength, ask for strategy. Strength carries you through battles. Strategy positions you to win them. Strength keeps you standing. Strategy tells you where to step. Strength helps you endure. Strategy helps you advance. Chosen ones do not move blindly. They inquire of the Lord. They ask, "What is the assignment today? Where should my energy go? Who should I speak to, and who should I avoid?" Chosen ones understand that clarity is protection, direction is safety. Divine strategy is your daily compass. From alignment, you must move into another pillar of your walk, protecting your peace, because your peace is spiritual territory. It is holy ground and noisy. Draining environments are not just uncomfortable, they are disruptive to your calling. You can no longer casually expose your spirit to chaos, confusion, or clutter. Sensitivity is your superpower, but without boundaries, it becomes your weakness. This is why God repeatedly separates you from crowds, from noise, from environments that suffocate your spirit. Your peace is not a luxury, it is a mandate. So limit your exposure to what drains you. Limit access to your heart. Limit access to your energy. Limit access to your spirit. This is not selfish, this is stewardship. Spiritual boundaries are sacred, and chosen ones who fail to protect themselves eventually lose the clarity, purity, and strength that made them chosen in the first place. Then comes the final movement in your walk, learning to live with purpose and obedience. A chosen life is not random, it is not reactive, it is not impulsive. Every word you speak, every decision you make, every step you take must reflect intentionality. Your life is not just something you live. Your life is an altar, a place where heaven meets earth, a space where God expresses His will through your daily actions. To walk as a chosen one means you no longer move based on emotion. You no longer chase validation. You no longer follow the crowd. You no longer react to distractions. Instead, you move with heavenly intention. You obey even when you don't understand. You step even when the path feels unclear. You trust even when the timing feels slow. Being chosen means your life is not your own. Your steps are ordered. Your relationships are filtered. Your decisions echo in the spirit. Your obedience shifts atmospheres. Your presence carries weight. It also means you must constantly remind yourself, your calling is greater than your comfort. Your purpose is larger than your preferences. Your mission is more important than public approval. So, you choose alignment over autopilot. You choose discernment over distraction. You choose purpose over popularity. You choose obedience over impulse. And as you walk in this way, aligned, protected, intentional, you will begin to notice something powerful. Everything around you shifts. Environments respond to you. People respond to you. Spiritual realms respond to you. Because when a chosen one walks in their identity, heaven backs their steps. This is how you walk as a chosen one, with alignment in your spirit, peace in your borders, and intention in your every move. You do not walk casually. You walk marked. You walk ordained. You walk chosen. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when you realize that you cannot live like everyone else, not because you think you're superior, but because heaven has marked you for a path that demands intention, sensitivity, and spiritual discipline. You feel the pull inside you, the inner knowing that whispers, your life has a different rhythm, your spirit has a different assignment, your steps have a different weight. And it is in this sacred awareness that God begins to shape you into the person you were always meant to become. But this shaping does not happen in crowds or chaos. Purpose is formed in quiet moments, because destiny is built in the whispers of the secret place, not the noise of public spaces. The world glorifies activity, performance, and constant movement, but heaven forms chosen vessels in stillness. It is in the quiet mornings where God rearranges your heart. It is in the silent evenings where He strengthens your resolve. It is in the slow, unseen days where your character is carved, your discernment sharpened, and your identity secured. This is why you must understand that your small habits shape your destiny more than any dramatic moment ever could. The discipline to pray when you don't feel like it, the commitment to stay aligned when distractions rise, the choice to steward your mind carefully. These small acts build a foundation that cannot be shaken. The enemy does not fear your emotional highs. He fears your consistent obedience. He fears your quiet discipline. He fears the chosen one who trains in secret. Because everything built in the secret place will be manifested in the public realm with undeniable authority. And once you truly grasp this, you begin to see why obedience matters more than visibility, because your calling doesn't need an audience to be real. In fact, the most powerful spiritual assignments begin in obscurity. Moses wasn't called from a throne, he was called from the wilderness. David wasn't crowned in the palace, he was summoned from the pasture. Jesus didn't begin his ministry in front of crowds, he began it alone in the wilderness, led by the Spirit. Your value isn't measured by how many people see you, it's measured by how deeply you listen to God. That is why chosen ones are able to walk in peace, power, and inner clarity, even when no one understands their journey, even when others underestimate them, even when the world says they should be further ahead. Your spiritual alignment is your strength, your inner peace is your authority, your clarity is your compass. But what truly separates the chosen from the crowd is this profound truth. Recognition is not needed for you to walk in your identity. When God marks you, you do not need applause to confirm it. You do not need validation to believe it. You do not need people to understand it for you to walk boldly in it. Your presence shifts rooms without you having to speak. Your spirit carries weight without you having to explain. Your light exposes darkness without you trying to impress. Your discernment makes others uneasy without you saying a word. This is the silent, powerful reality of being chosen. Your authority is felt before it is seen. People sense something different about you. Environments react to you. Spirits recognize you, not because you announce who you are, but because heaven has stamped something on your being that cannot be hidden. And this is why heaven must remain your compass. You cannot follow trends. You cannot chase opinions. You cannot be guided by emotions. Your direction must come from above. The world will try to pull you into its pace, its urgency, its noise, but your spirit must remain tuned to the frequency of heaven. When you move by God's timing, you will never be late. When you follow God's instruction, you will never be misaligned. When you trust God's process, you will never be overlooked. To be chosen is to accept that your life must look different. Your routines will look different. Your circle will be smaller. Your path will be narrower. Your choices will be intentional. And yet, despite how different your journey feels, there is unmatched peace in knowing that your steps are ordered. Your identity is secure, and your destiny is unfolding exactly as it should. You are not meant to blend in. You are meant to stand apart. You are not called to fit the world. You are called to transform it. This is the call to live differently, quietly but powerfully, hidden but chosen, unseen but unstoppable, led by heaven, not by the crowd. And as you walk in this divine difference, you will finally understand. Your life is not ordinary. Your journey is not random. Your calling is not small. You were crafted carefully, intentionally, to walk a path only a chosen one can walk. As you arrive at this final moment, after walking through the truths, revelations, and confirmations woven throughout this message, you may feel something stirring, an inner shift, a quiet awakening, a deep sense that something ancient within you has finally been named. This is not coincidence. It is not imagination. This is the voice of purpose rising. This is the whisper of destiny catching up to you. This is the moment when everything you've sensed, your entire life, begins to make sense. And so, as a final reminder, let these words settle into your spirit. You are chosen, protected, seen, and guided. This is not poetry. This is spiritual reality. You are chosen not because you are perfect, but because God set you apart long before you knew Him. You are protected not because life is easy, but because heaven has placed a shield around your purpose. You are seen not by crowds or society's standards, but by the one who designed your destiny. You are guided not by accident or luck, but by divine strategy, divine timing, and divine wisdom. When you understand this, the confusion about your journey, the loneliness in certain seasons, the sensitivity you never knew how to explain, all of it suddenly aligns. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not misplaced. You are positioned. You are refined. You are awakened. And you are rising into the identity heaven has been preparing you for since the beginning. But now that this truth has reached you, now that your spirit recognizes the weight of what has been spoken, a question emerges, a question that becomes the turning point in your spiritual journey. What will you do now that you know? What will you do now that you understand why you never fit in, why you always sensed more, why God pulled you away from certain people, why your heart sees deeper than others recognize? What will you do now that you can no longer pretend you didn't hear God's whisper, no longer shrink back into the life you've outgrown, no longer dim your light to make others comfortable? This is the moment when you choose direction. This is the moment heaven watches. This is the moment your next season begins. You can stay the same, safe, hidden, quiet, or you can step into the realm where chosen ones stand, intentional, aligned, refined, and ready. The choice has always been yours, but the calling has never stopped pursuing you. And that is why, right here, right now, your spirit is being drawn into a deeper place. You can feel it, the pull toward clarity, the hunger for alignment, the desire to walk as the person God always intended you to be. There is something holy in this moment, something sacred in the stillness that surrounds these words, because you are not just reading, your spirit is responding, your heart is waking up, your purpose is stretching, and heaven is preparing to speak. So let this final movement of the message become a transition, a holy shift, a doorway into something deeper. Let it lead you inward, upward, and forward, because now you are being invited into a moment unlike any other, a moment to breathe, to release, to surrender, to align. This is why the final words in this journey must guide you to prepare for prayer, because prayer is where revelation becomes transformation, where knowledge becomes power, where calling becomes activation. This is the moment where you quiet the noise around you and tune your heart to God's frequency. This is the moment where you lay down the confusion, the heaviness, the doubts, and the fears that tried to cling to your identity. This is the moment where you allow God to restore what was drained, strengthen what was shaken, and rekindle what was dimmed. Prayer is not a ritual. It is a realignment. It is an exchange, a releasing of what weighs you down and a receiving of what lifts you up. It is a conversation between your spirit and the one who created it. It is a recalibration of the path, the heart, the mind, and the mission. And as you prepare your spirit to enter that moment, understand this: God does not reveal truth without offering direction. He does not awaken a chosen one without equipping them. He does not expose your calling without preparing you to carry it. What you are stepping into is not random, it is ordained. This conclusion is not the ending of a message, it is the beginning of a transformation. It is the doorway into clarity. It is the invitation into alignment. It is the moment heaven expects you to respond. So take a breath, settle your spirit, open your heart, because the prayer that follows is not just words, it is a spiritual shift, a release, an activation, a sealing, and it will carry you forward as you walk boldly, consciously, and courageously in the truth of who you really are: a chosen one, a light-bearer, a spiritually marked vessel, a child of destiny rising into divine purpose. You have reached the doorway. Now, step through. As we enter this moment of surrender and strength, we step into a declaration of identity, speaking boldly over who we are and who we belong to. Heavenly Father, today I declare with clarity and conviction, I am chosen, I am called, I am marked by your purpose and shaped by your hand. I am not defined by my past, my wounds, or my fears. I am defined by your word, your promises, and the identity you have placed inside of me. I am not here by accident. I am here by assignment. I am not walking in circles. I am walking in destiny. I am not overlooked. I am divinely set apart. Let this truth settle into the deepest parts of my soul. Let it rewrite the thoughts that have tried to tell me otherwise. Let it awaken the chosen one within me. And now, as we stand firmly in this identity, we move into the breaking of lies, tearing down every false word that has tried to shape our thinking or distort our vision. Father, in the authority of Jesus' name, I renounce every lie spoken over my life. Lies of confusion, lies of loneliness, lies that say, I am not enough, not capable, not worthy, or not strong enough. I reject every narrative that has tried to shrink my calling or silence my voice. I break agreement with every whisper of the enemy that tried to convince me I was forgotten or abandoned. I cut off every false identity I once carried, every weight that never belonged to me. Where lies once lived, let truth now rise. Where confusion once clouded me, let clarity now cover me. Where loneliness once echoed, let your presence now surround me. With those lies broken, we now step boldly into the activation of authority, awakening what God has already placed within us. Lord, stir up my discernment. Let me see what others cannot see, know what others overlook, and sense what your Spirit reveals. Awaken my courage, courage to stand, courage to speak, courage to walk the path you've designed for me. Ignite my purpose with fresh fire. Let every gift inside me come alive. Let every dormant calling rise. I activate divine authority over my mind, my decisions, my relationships, and my environment. No more shrinking, no more second-guessing, no more dimming my light for the comfort of others. I step into the fullness of who you have called me to be. And as this authority awakens within us, we now pray for protection and discernment, asking God to shield us and sharpen us as we walk forward. Father, surround me with your hedge of protection, visible and invisible. Guard my mind from spiritual distraction. Guard my heart from unnecessary attachments. Guard my path from traps, temptations, and spiritual ambushes. Give me the discernment to recognize who is for me, who is against me, and who is simply not meant to walk with me. Give me sensitivity to your voice, and distance from every voice that leads away from you. Establish boundaries that protect my peace, my purpose, and my growth. And now, with protection spoken over us, we bring all of this together as we seal everything in Jesus' name, aligning ourselves with divine timing and destiny. Lord, I seal every declaration, every breakthrough, every shift in Jesus' name. I align myself with your will, your time, and your direction. Let every step I take be ordered by heaven. Let every open door be one you designed. Let every closed door be protection, not rejection. I seal my identity. I seal my purpose. I seal my discernment. I seal my destiny. I seal my walk with you. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. If this prayer spoke to your spirit, comment, Amen, I receive it, and I will walk like I'm chosen. Subscribe for more messages, teachings, and spiritual empowerment designed to strengthen your walk and sharpen your calling. Encouragement to stay aligned, stay bold, stay rooted, stay aware. You are chosen, and now walk like it.